We like to know about you a little and to learn the story behind your career. Why did you choose psychology for it?
Well, I mean, that could take the whole hour, so I will try to condense it. I think that it goes back. Well, I know that it goes. So it goes back to my undergraduate, my first introduction to psychology class in undergraduate school, and that's why in undergraduate school, and I think that that's why that intro class is so important. And that's the first class you take as a freshman. And so I took that class with my first year when I was 17 years of age. And I initially was interested in going into the medical field. And so I was going to major in pre-med and then go on, try to go to medical school. But when I took that class, it was just so fascinating on how the brain works and how just the relationship between the mind and the behavior, that after that first class, I went and changed my major, and that was at age 17. And I have stayed on that track all along. And so the thing that fascinated me about it is just how significant the mind is and the importance in terms of driving one's life. And so I've stayed on that track since age 17. Yeah, I was gonna say that's very unusual because people don't usually decide that at that point in time. And they may just kind of like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Or they may start off with something else, and then they just kind of move into psychology. But that was something that I was really clear about at age 17, and I stayed with that up until now. Throughout undergraduate school and graduate school. Yes.
How would you evaluate the turning point in your career? What should psychologists pay attention when it comes to managing their careers?
I think that one of the things that we need to know is that there's always change. So change is constant, but it's constantly occurring. Whether it's change related to how the insurance carriers, we have this system in the United States where insurance companies cover for treatment. And so it can be a change as it relates to how they decide to cover it. It could be other kinds of changes in the curriculum that would be required. As we get more knowledge, we know that changes can occur. And so one of the things is to have that flexibility in your thinking so that you can adapt to the changes that you will see happen over time. And so if I can have as my foundation that this is something that I really believe in, and that is people having access to adequate mental health care and the importance of that, then I can really work to adjust and adapt to the changes.
Mary Wheaton, Colkins, and Margaret Floyd Washburn experienced discrimination. What kind of discrimination? They got acceptance from universities after men, for example. Also, they didn't have permission to do laboratory studies. Also, they were the first female presidents of the APA. Is there still discrimination against women in the field of psychology? Do women have difficulties today? Yes.
Well, that's so there are multiple facets related to that question. And I think that the discrimination is more than just gender. So we start thinking about race as well, which is maybe different from other countries because we got this big glaring thing about racial discrimination in this country. So it's like we can address the racial discrimination, that'd be like number one. And then we start looking at gender kinds of things. So in terms of the profession, I would say that in the United States, we've come a long way as it relates to women being involved in the profession as well as within the leadership within psychology. So at one time, it was truly a male-dominated society, whether you're talking about who the leaders were as it related to the presidents and the board of directors of the association, or even if you talk about the boards and committees and the council of representatives, who makes the rules. And then that goes on down to the patients. Now, what has happened in the United States is there's been this thing called the feminization of psychology. And it started with, we started seeing more women entering into the field, right? There are more women entering into it. And so and now there is a gender imbalance where there are more females entering into the system. And with that gender imbalance, you're going to, in terms of who's in leadership, then you start seeing as higher ups, you're going to see more females in the leadership roles in the association. That's so over the last, about in the last 10 years, we probably had no more than 2-3 males, and the rest have been females. So what we're finding is that women are becoming more involved in leadership. And it is a female dominated a profession here in the United States. So you're going to have more females in the leadership roles. Now, what we do know is that we still have disparity in terms of treatment as it relates to gender. So we know that women, my area of specialty is pain management. So we know that women have more severe pain in multiple areas of their body. They're more disabled from pain. And so, but when we start looking at who manages the pain, and that this is a high specialty, is highly specialized, it's more males. And so we know that and it's not just in the United States as it relates to the health disparity that relates to gender, it's all over the world. And so, but in terms of the American Psychological Association, there are more females involved in leadership within the association. And it's very hard to get males involved because they just can't get elected. It's very hard for them to get elected now, which is like, how different is that from what it was, say, 15 years ago?
Okay, you talk about management and leadership. Also, our next question about leadership and management. You are not just a psychologist, you are also a manager and leader. How do you use your psychology knowledge in management and leadership?
So management and leadership, and it's really an interesting thing. So first of all, when I talk about management, I have to first of all work on managing myself. So it's really a lot to be a leader. And so what I have to manage my life and my personal world, because otherwise being in this leadership position can be so consuming so I have to have that balance in managing my life. So in terms of managing, in terms of leadership, I think that one of the key things to have is a good working relationship with the people that you count on to do things for you. And in my case, it's the board of directors. And so I want to make sure that they have the foundation and the knowledge and the basic training. And then I put that trust in them to do the things that they need to do to help me do my job as the president of this association. So it's not just you, but it's also the team that you have to work with you. Now, the other important aspect of the management is having the staff around you to help make your life a better place. And so that's what Miss Joanne Murphy is. She's the staffer. And so she helps me in terms of the management of my world. So it's me, then I have the board of directors, that's the governing body, as the part of the governing body. Then I have that staff, and all of us work together for the management and hopefully to do the job help me to do the job that I need to do as president of APA.
In today, all of the world experience traumatic situation because of COVID-19. As a clinical health psychologist, what is your advice for staying psychologically healthy during COVID-19 pandemic lockdown?
I would say that it has been quite stressful in dealing with the patients that I have with that. Some of them have had COVID. Many of them don't want to get the vaccine. And, it's really interesting because I don't know what the availability of the vaccine is in your country. here we have the vaccine available for everyone. They just don't want to get it. And so we have the problem with the vaccine readiness. Many of my patients have had COVID and they're dealing with the consequences of that. So I look at the news every day and I see what's happening with the news. It's getting a little bit better. Then I have what's happening within my practice and how the patients are dealing with that. And so one of the things that I have to do is to take care of myself. One of the things that's happened with in the United States is that we've gone virtual in terms of our work. So we're not seeing anybody in person. So what that means is that there are no boundaries per se, because every free moment that you have will be taken up. And also the association has been very focused with COVID because they're not working at the office either. They're at home working. So I have all of that. And, when do they open back the building? And so one of the things that I make sure that I do is that I take care of myself, because it can really be overwhelming to deal with not just my concern about COVID and the people that I know who have been affected or who have died from it, but also managing the patients and what they bring, because they already have their presenting problem. Then you have COVID on top of that, and it makes for a lot of complexity. So every moment that you have can be taken up. So I have to make sure that I'm taking space to take care of myself. And so, for example, you may see I have a different background from what I had the last time you did the interview, because I am now I'm at the beach. So I go, it's a place called Gulfport, Mississippi, and I'm a block and a half from the water. So I'm changing my environment because I know that I can relax and take care of myself better, get up and go walking in the morning and spend time with my family in the afternoon versus just having total focus on my work and the work with the patients or what you see on the news.
Now, if you have a chance to send a message to psychology students around the world, what would it be?
Yeah, we have this saying called "keep your eyes on the prize," and you've heard of that. So the prize, to keep your eyes on the prize, and the prize is what the end result is. And the end result is that you want to be a psychologist, because there will always be some kind of obstacles and barriers in the way. And if you can just keep your eye focused on, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to deal with these things because my end goal is that I want to be a psychologist and I want to make this great difference in the world. And so that goes beyond even being a student. You want to keep your eye on the prize. And the prize, now that I'm out in the field working, and my prize is that I want to make sure that people have access to adequate mental health care. So, because there's going to always be changes, there's going to be some barriers in the way, and you have to keep yourself focused that this is what I really want to do. Yeah, I was just going to say, just allow yourself to know, like what is your value system, because there's going to always be some things that will be changing, and you got to make sure that whatever you do, you're staying true to who you are and what it is that you really believe in.
Anything else you would like to add?
No, I think the other thing to keep in mind is, which is really a nice thing, and I think that you are aware of it, is that we're now becoming more of a global society. So it's more than just depending on ourselves within our country, because that, the world you can have that as your world, but know that, you now have a larger network of people that you can work with to help, us accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. And so there are things that are happening in this world that we can't operate in a bubble. So for example, COVID, it's everywhere. It is, I don't know any place that it's not. They're getting better, but it's out. Who knew? It started wherever it started, somewhere in Wuhan, China, but now it's all over the world. Climate change is impacting us all. Everyone is being affected by climate change. we are looking at the health disparities. We know that it's not just the United States, it's not just Turkey, it's overall is a worldwide thing. And so all of these things that happen within our little world end up being part of that bigger challenge in society. So know that whatever's going on, we're not in isolation, that it's all of us together. So you guys look pretty bright to be so late. So thank you for staying up to have this.
No, we thank you for your time, and you gave us the second chance to do this. We're so glad to meet you and to be here with you. We don't want to take much of your time.
My pleasure. Take care.